Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Brian Nichols here. I'm the Vice President of Recruiting at Veteran Hiring Solutions, as well as an advisory board member here for TABS. Today, we're focusing on interviews, where you win or lose the opportunity. Your resume got you in the door. Now, the interview is where you convince them that you're the right person for this role. Previously, you've heard about personal branding and building value propositions, and you've probably even heard about star stories. Well, today we're going to put all of that into action. We'll cover how you prepare strategically, how to perform in different interview formats, and how to avoid mistakes that cost people job offers. Here's something important for you to understand. Sales interviews are different. They're evaluating whether you can sell and how you sell. The interview itself is a sales call. You're selling yourself as the solution to their hiring problem. How you show up, communicate, handle objections, and even ask questions, all of this is being evaluated. The good news, you've been in high pressure situations before. An interview is not harder than what you've already done. It's just different. And we're going to prepare you for it. So let's go ahead and get started. In the military, you never went into a mission without intelligence. In first responder work, you never entered a scene without sizing it up. The same principle applies to interviews. Walking into an interview without research is like walking into a tactical situation blind. You're unprepared, you miss opportunities, and you signal to the outside that you don't take this seriously. Doing your homework is non-negotiable. Let me say that again. Doing your homework is non-negotiable. And in today's world, there is no excuse for not doing it. Here's what you must research before an interview. Industry trends. Understand what's happening in IT and telecom. That could be 5G deployment, cloud migration, cybersecurity threats, AI adoption, or several other topics. When the interviewer says to you, why sales? Why IT and telecom? You can respond with something like this. I'm excited about this industry because enterprises are facing unprecedented security challenges, and helping them protect their infrastructure feels as mission critical as what I did in the military. You also need to research company information. What do they sell specifically? Who are their customers? Are they small to medium-sized businesses, enterprise accounts, government, specific verticals? How big are they? Think about revenue, employee count, growth. What's their reputation? Look at Glassdoor and news articles. What's their mission and their values? What products and services do they sell? You don't need to be an expert on their products, but know their flagship products, who they're for, and what problems they solve. This allows you to ask informed questions, such as, I saw you recently launched X product. How is that fitting into your overall strategy? Look at their competitive landscape. Know the top 3 to 5 competitors and how this company is positioned differently. In sales, you will compete against other vendors. Understanding the competitive landscape demonstrates strategic thinking. Look at your interviewer. Look them up on LinkedIn. How long have they been with the company? What's their background? Do you have any connections in common? This can help you build rapport. I saw on your LinkedIn that you've been with the company for 8 years. That's an impressive tenure. What keeps you here? Look at recent news stories. Check for funding announcements, new product launches, major customer wins, executive changes, or even awards. Hey, congratulations on the recent X achievement. How does that impact the sales team? Dive deep into the job description. Analyze it. What are the top 3 to 5 requirements? What skills are mentioned multiple times? Create a 2-column document. Left column requirement, right column your example. You should invest a minimum of 45 to 60 minutes per company. Now, again, this is only for companies you're interviewing with. You don't need to prepare this in depth for an application. I encourage you to create a folder for each company. It contains your job description, any research notes you came up with, your customized value proposition, and questions you want to ask, and we'll touch on those later on. For phone interviews, have this open with you. For in-person interviews, review it before you go and review it again in the car before you walk in. Here's your interview prep checklist, and let me give you a practical timeline as you prepare for interviews. 48 hours out, do a complete company research. That's that 60 to 90 minutes. Use the framework we just discussed. Create your research folder. Practice with BMax for 45 to 60 minutes. We'll introduce this tool next, but plan to spend a significant amount of time practicing here. Review your star stories. These are the ones that you've previously developed and used in your branding. Have 7 to 10 of these ready to go. Prepare 8 to 10 questions you want to ask. Write them down. Categorize them, whether they be role specific, company specific, team specific, growth specific, and prioritize your top 5. Plan your outfit. Make sure it's clean, it's pressed, it looks professional. Try it on. When was the last time you wore it? Have a backup ready just in case. Confirm the logistics, the date, the time, the location, or the video link. Know exactly where you're going. Have contact info in case you're running late so you can let them know. On the day of, skim your research folder, review your value proposition and top 3 star stories. Read any new breaking news about the company. Arrive 10 to 15 minutes early, not 30 plus, that's awkward, but early enough to compose yourself. Bring resumes with you. You should have enough copies so that you have twice as many for every interviewer. So if you're interviewing with a panel of 4, make sure you have at least 8 copies of your resume. Have a professional pad folio or notebook with you so that you can take notes. Make sure you have a pen that works and a backup pen just in case. Have breath mints, not gum, because you want to make sure that you've got nothing in your mouth, but that you have a fresh mouth when you're talking to people. Turn your phone off completely, not just on silent, off completely. The reason being, even on silent, if it goes off and it starts buzzing, that's going to be awkward. In your car right before you go in, review your research folder one more time. Practice your value proposition out loud 2 to 3 times. And then give yourself a positive pep talk. I'm prepared, I'm qualified, I'm ready, I've got this. Take 3 deep breaths and then walk in with confidence. Now let's talk about a powerful resource I want to introduce you to. It's BMax. It's your AI-powered interview coach. And this is available on the Veteran Hiring Solutions website at veteranhiringsolutions.com/career tools. Here's what BMax can do for you. It simulates real interview environments. You can practice answering questions in a realistic setting, and it feels like a real interview, which helps reduce anxiety when you get to an actual interview. BMax elevates your answers for clarity, relevance, and impact. It gives real-time feedback. It catches military jargon that civilian employers won't understand. It helps you stay mission aligned, meaning your answers connect to what the employer needs. It helps you redefine your delivery. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it. BMax helps you practice pacing, structure, and confidence until your delivery feels natural, not rehearsed. It covers common interview questions, behavioral-based questions, situational questions. It'll give you sales-specific questions and technical questions relevant to an IT and telecom environment. What makes BMax different is that most interview prep tools are generic. BMax is built specifically for veterans and first responders. It understands your background, your military terminology, and the cultural differences you face. For example, if you answer a question with, as the platoon sergeant, I coordinated with S3 to execute the op ward, BMax will flag this and help you translate it to something like, as a team leader managing 30 personnel, I coordinated with operations to execute the mission plan. Here's how you can use BMax effectively. Start with common questions. Practice the tell me about yourself, which is your value proposition. Practice your star stories. practice explaining your transition. And then take that practice and make it more role specific. Input a job description and then practice questions specific to IT and telecom sales. If you tell it you want a job in IT telecom and paste your resume in, it will help you with that. Get feedback and iterate. Don't just practice once, do multiple rounds, and each time incorporate the feedback that VMAX gives you. Practice before every interview. The night before or morning of, do a quick VMAX session. This will keep you sharp. Here's what happens from a confidence standpoint. First practice, you're nervous, you use jargon, you forget your metrics. By the fifth practice, you're clearer, less jargon, more concise. Come that 10th practice, you're confident, stories flow naturally, you sound like a sales professional. By the time you get to the actual interview, you've already been there 10 times. You're calm, you're prepared, you sound polished. That's your competitive edge. So what I encourage you to do tonight, spend 30 minutes with BMAX. Practice your value proposition, get feedback, iterate. You will immediately see the value. Let's talk about the different types of interviews you'll encounter. Each has a different purpose and requires different strategy. Now, this is not for every company, but typically there's 4 rounds of interviews. That first interview is that phone or video screen. Typically, that's to determine if you're worth moving to the next step and bringing in. It's usually conducted by a recruiter or an HR professional, and the goal is simply for you to get invited to that next round of interviews. That next round, the purpose behind your behavioral interview is to assess whether you have the competencies needed to pass based off your past behavior. Who typically conducts this interview? This is usually the hiring manager. And the goal here is to prove that you have the skills to do the job. Next, typically you're brought in for a panel interview. Purpose here is to get multiple perspectives on whether or not you're the right fit for the role. It's typically conducted by 3 to 6 people from different roles within the company. The goal here is to show that you can handle pressure at work with diverse groups. And then usually there's your final interview. This final assessment is typically conducted by someone such as the VP of sales, a regional director, or a C-level executive. The goal here is to confirm mutual fit and close the deal. Each of these requires different preparation. So let's dive into the specifics of each. On a video screen, before the call, have your research folder open on your computer. Have a copy of your resume in front of you. Ensure a quiet environment with good connection. Have a notepad and pen ready. Stand up or sit up straight, as it does affect your voice quality. Here's a critical rule. Never discuss salary specifics in the phone screen. They will always ask you, what are your salary expectations? I encourage you to respond with something similar to, I'm focused on finding the right role where I can contribute and grow. I'm sure if we're both excited about the fit, we can work out fair compensation. Can you share the range for this role, please? All other questions, you want to keep answers concise, 2 to 3 minutes maximum per answer. If you ramble on, you've lost them. If they call you and you didn't have a meeting scheduled, it's okay to ask to call back later, especially if it's a bad time. It's better to reschedule than to try to wing it from a noisy location when you're not prepared. Always smile while talking. Yes, they can hear it in your voice when you're smiling. Take notes. Write down names, write down key points they mention, write down things you can reference later. Remember, the goal here is to get invited to the next round. That's it. This is a screening conversation. This is not the final interview. Don't try to close the deal here. And then when it's done, send a follow-up. Send a brief email within 2 hours to that point of contact. Something similar to, thank you for taking the time to speak with me today about the role. I'm excited about this opportunity and look forward to continuing the conversation. The core principle behind behavior interviews: past behavior is the best predictor of future performance. Typically, they're not asking you a hypothetical question such as, what would you do if? They're looking for real examples. Tell me about a time when. Some of the most common behavior-based questions: tell me about a time you solved a complex problem. Describe a situation where you built trust with someone resistant. Give an example of when you exceeded expectations. Tell me about a time you had to adapt quickly. Describe how you've led a team through challenges. Your strategy here is to use the STAR format for every behavioral-based question. To remind you, a STAR format: STAR, situation, task, action, result. Set the context, what needed to be done, what you did, and that measurable outcome. You should keep your stories to between 90 and 120 seconds each. If you realize you're going long, wrap it up. To sum up, and then hit your key point. Make sure you're including metrics and quantified results in every single story. What's also important is to connect your stories to sales competencies explicitly. That experience taught me X skill, which I'll bring to the sales role. You should have 7 to 10 stories that you've practiced and rehearsed ready that demonstrate different competencies such as problem solving, leadership, technical expertise, relationship building, adaptability, or results orientation. Practice with BMAX until these stories flow naturally. Panel interviews can be intimidating, but understanding what they're evaluating helps you prepare for it. Typically, they're going to evaluate whether you can handle pressure. Multiple people is inherently more stressful. How do you command a room? Can you adapt communication styles for different audiences? And most importantly, are you a culture fit for this team? So before you go in, find out who's on the panel. Ask the recruiter or the person booking the interview. Research each of those persons on LinkedIn. Understand each person's role and perspective. And again, bring enough resume copies for everyone. I encourage you to bring twice as many as you need just in case somebody else jumps in. During the interview, make initial eye contact with the person who asks you the question first. And then as you answer, scan the entire panel, 2 to 3 seconds for each person, and return to the question asker for the conclusion. Take notes on who's asking what and show that you have and value different perspectives. Here's an example of addressing diverse perspectives. In the military, I regularly coordinated with personnel across different specialties: intelligence, operations, logistics. Each brought a different perspective, and the best solutions came from synthesizing those viewpoints. I approach client engagements the same way, bringing together solutions engineers, customer success, and account management. After your interview, send individual thank you emails to each panelist, referencing something specific from their questions. This does require you to take good notes during your interview. And remember, panel interviews often indicate a collaborative culture. Emphasize teamwork and your ability to work across diverse groups. Virtual interviews have now become standard. And let's talk about how you can excel in this format. Your technical setup, and you should test this 24 hours before an interview. It consists of your camera, your microphone, and your internet connection. Whenever possible, use a laptop or a desktop, not a phone, to take an interview. Hardwire your internet if possible. Fully charge or even plug in your device. Close out all other programs and log in 10 minutes early, not earlier. Keep your environment clean and a professional background with no clutter. Good lighting. Your face should be well lit, but not backlit. A quiet space with no interruptions is key. Keep the camera at eye level. Stack books under your laptop if needed. You don't want the camera looking up your nose, and you also don't want the camera looking down at you where you've got to look up. And then put a do not disturb sign on your door. Make sure your family in the house knows that you're on an interview and they can't not disturb you. Dress professionally from head to toe. Yes, even the bottom half, as it does affect your mindset. Look at the camera, not the screen. I know this is hard, but it's critical and you'll need to practice this. Sit up straight. Minimize hand gestures below the frame. Keep energy level higher than normal because a camera flattens your energy. Have notes off to the side and not obviously visible. And here's a pro tip for you. Record yourself doing a practice interview and then watch it back. You'll immediately see what you need to fix, whether that's slouching, looking away from the camera, weird facial expressions, your background, poor lighting. If during your interview your connection drops, stay calm. Reconnect immediately and briefly apologize. Hey, I'm so sorry about that. Had a technical issue on my end, and pick up where you left off. If you can, have a phone number handy for the interviewer or the recruiter as a backup. Let's cover some do's and don'ts that can make or break your interview. Arrive 10 to 15 minutes early, not 30 minutes early. That's awkward. Dress professionally, suit or conservative business attire. Bring multiple copies of your resume. Make strong eye contact, 3 to 5 seconds at a time. Use a firm handshake. Smile and show enthusiasm. Energy is contagious, and sales requires enthusiasm. Turn your phone off completely, not silent, off. Take notes during your interview as it shows engagement. Ask thoughtful questions, and we'll talk about some of those here in a few. And then send a thank you within 24 hours. Don't arrive late or too early. Don't dress too casually. Don't badmouth previous employers for any reason. This can include military, your department, anybody. Don't use military jargon or acronyms without translating them. Don't lie or exaggerate. Background checks will catch it. Check your phone, because if it rings during the interview, you're likely done. Forget interviewers' names. That's a horrible thing to do. Write them down. Don't leave without asking about next steps and the timeline for next steps. And don't skip the thank you note. Sales is all about a follow-up. Let's address appearance, because in 2025, some people think this doesn't matter anymore. And I'm here to tell you that it does, especially in sales where you'll meet with executives. For men, you should wear a suit, navy or charcoal, or a sport coat with dress pants. A button-down shirt, white or light blue is the most appropriate, and a conservative tie. You should wear dress shoes that are polished, minimal jewelry, a well-groomed haircut, shaved or trimmed beard. Don't come in with 5 o'clock shadow. Cover visible tattoos if possible. And then no cologne or a very light application. For women, suit, dress pants with a blazer or a conservative dress. Closed-toed professional shoes. Keyword there is closed-toed. Minimal professional jewelry. Conservative makeup. Professional hairstyle doesn't mean you have to go out and have your hair professionally done, but make sure that it's well put together. Cover visible tattoos if possible. And again, no perfume or very light application. Your appearance signals whether you can represent the company professionally to clients. Enterprise business-to-business sales requires meeting with executives who expect a certain level of professionalism. The rule here is dress for the job you want, not the office culture. Even if the company is business casual, interview in business professional. You should always have questions prepared. Not having questions signals a lack of interest or critical thinking. Your questions should focus on these areas. They should focus about the role, about training and support, about team culture, about growth, and about next steps. You should prepare 8 to 10 questions and prioritize your top 5. You won't have time to ask all of them. Some of them may even be answered throughout your conversation. These questions here signal that you're more interested in what the company can do for you rather than what you can do for the company. In the early interview stages, never talk about vacation, work from home, work schedules, benefits, how soon you can be promoted. If you ask what the company does, that shows no research, and don't necessarily discuss pay in early interviews. It's best to ask these questions about benefits after you have an offer, compensation when they bring it up or in your final interview, and then work arrangements like working weekends or working from home and getting company cars, those sorts of things after you've demonstrated your value to the company. Now, again, if they ask about salary expectations, deflect professionally. I'm focused on finding the right fit. I'm sure if we're both excited, we can work out fair compensation. Can you share the range budgeted for this role? They share a range and you're drastically outside of it, you're going to want to consider whether or not this is the right role for you. Every interview will have questions that feel difficult. Let's prepare you for the most common ones in career transition interviews. A lot of times you're going to get questions like, why are you leaving the military or first responder work? What they're really asking is, are you running from something or running to something? And will you be happy here? There's a lot of bad answers. I was tired of the bureaucracy. The pay wasn't good enough. I couldn't handle it anymore. A better answer is something like, I'm incredibly proud of my 10 years of service, but I'm ready for a new challenge. I want to apply the skills I've developed, problem solving, relationship building, managing complex operations in a growth-oriented environment. Sales appeals to me because it combines strategic thinking, relationship building, and measurable performance, all things I excel at. The key here is to frame it towards you're moving toward the opportunity. You're not moving away from your problems. Question 2 that you're probably going to face. You have no sales experience. Why should we hire you? What they're really asking is, can you actually sell and will you be able to learn quickly? The bad answer is, I'm a veteran and veterans are known for being hard workers. What you really want to say is something like, you're right. I don't have a traditional sales background, but I disagree that I don't have sales experience. Let me give you an example. In my current role as a military or first responder, I had to convince senior leadership to approve a $2 million equipment upgrade. I couldn't just say we need this. I had to build a business case, address their concerns about budget and ROI, demonstrate the risks of not upgrading, and get buy-in from multiple stakeholders. That's consultative selling. What I bring is a proven ability to understand complex problems, build trust quickly, communicate value clearly, and drive decisions. The product knowledge I can learn, those core competencies are already proven. What's your biggest weakness? You're going to hear this in every interview. What they're really asking you is, are you self-aware? How do I handle areas where you need to improve? Bad answers, you don't want to use cliche answers. I'm a perfectionist, or something that sounds fake like I work too hard. Or you don't want to be arrogant and say, I really don't have any weaknesses. What you really want to do is identify a real weakness and then what you're doing or what you did about it. For example, early in my transition, I realized I was using too much military terminology. I didn't realize how much jargon I'd internalized. So I've been actively working on translating my experience into civilian language. I've been practicing with BMAX, which is our AI interview tool, and I've asked friends to call me out when I slip into acronyms. I'm getting much better now, but it's something that I stay very conscious of. You will likely also hear the question, tell me about a time that you failed. What they're really asking is, how do you handle failure? Do you take responsibility? And do you learn from your mistakes? So again, let's talk about early in my military career, I was tasked with planning a training event for 200 personnel. I focused so much on tactical details that I failed to communicate clearly with all stakeholders. The event happened, but it was chaotic because people didn't have the information they needed. I learned 2 critical lessons here. First, communication is as important as execution. And second, I need to involve stakeholders early. Since then, I've made stakeholder communication a priority, and it's made me much more effective. That experience actually makes me a better sales professional because I understand that selling isn't just about the product. It's about ensuring everyone in the buying process has the information they need. Lucky for you, you can practice all of these questions with BMAX, and BMAX will help prepare you for these. One of the biggest challenges you're going to face is language. You've spent years speaking in that military or first responder terminology, and many civilian interviewers, they just don't understand that language at all. So let's talk about some of your critical translations. In your old world, you had a mission. In this new sales world, that's deal, quota, or revenue target. You're used to a unit or squad. Now you've got a sales team and an account team. You're used to a chain of command. Now you have a reporting structure, a management line, a sales hierarchy. You're used to after action reviews. Now that's called a post-call debrief or a deal review. Commander's intent, right? That's now sales strategy and account strategy. Standard operating procedures are now sales processes or methodology. Intelligence and recon, you're looking at market research and discovery. Rules of engagement, those are sales guidelines or even compliance, right? You're used to logistics. Those are now sales operations. You're used to getting a brief and a debrief. Those are now presentations and follow-ups. Your tour of duty is now a sales cycle or even a fiscal year, right? What you don't want to say is something like, I was the NCOIC of the S6 shop, or we did AARs after every mission, or I was a 68 whiskey assigned to a line company. You want to translate these into civilian languages. I was a senior IT manager for a cavalry squadron. I was a combat medic providing emergency medical care. We conducted detailed reviews after every operation to ensure we identified lessons learned. The rule here, if you need to explain what an acronym is, just don't use it. Translate it and say what you did in what we call plain language. Use BMAX to practice this. It will flag all of your military jargon in real time and help you translate it into what you're trying to say. After discussing challenges, let's remind you of your strengths. Your background directly assesses what hiring managers need. What they need are relevant certifications, experience with technology systems, ability to understand technical documentation, comfort with technical conversation. That's that technical credibility. Many of you have hands-on IT or communications experience, whether you realize it or not. You understand mission critical systems. You're quick learners who master complex equipment under pressure. You've managed enterprise networks, cybersecurity operations, or communications infrastructures in a highly demanding environment. Complex solutions understanding. They're looking for people who understand and have an understanding of multi-product offerings, integration challenges, technical and business value, and ROI. What you bring is experience with integrated systems across communications, logistics, and operations. You have systems thinking approach with an understanding of dependencies and even cascading effects. You know that when one component fails, you have to understand those downstream effects. Long sales cycle management. What they're looking for here is somebody with patience and persistence through 6 to 18 month enterprise deals, pipeline managements with multiple touch points. You're comfortable with 6 to 12 month deployments and operations. You're patient, persistent, and mission focused. You don't need immediate gratification because you understand that you're playing the long game. Multi-level relationship building. They're looking for somebody who has the ability to engage C-suite executives, technical buyers, end users, and procurement teams all at the same time. You've briefed everyone from junior personnel to senior leadership. You've adapted your communication by audience. You've built trust across diverse stakeholder groups, and you can speak to a private one way and a general another. And that's exactly what's needed at this level. Don't apologize for your background here. Own it, translate it, and leverage it. Let me walk you through mistakes that cost people job offers even when they're otherwise qualified. The first mistake I see is using too much jargon. I was in E7 in the 82nd doing a 6 work at the battalion level. Civilian hiring managers are not going to know what you're saying. I was a senior communications manager in an Army airborne unit, managing IT infrastructure for 800 personnel. Again, if you need to explain your acronyms, don't use them. Another mistake I see often from us is that we undersell our accomplishments. I just did my job. It was nothing special. Anyone would have done it. In sales interviews, humility reads as a lack of confidence. Here, what you need to do is something like, I led a team of 12 that increased efficiency by 30% and saved over $500,000. Own your individual contributions. You can be factual without being arrogant. And another big mistake I see from us is that we fail to connect past to future. I spent 12 years in the Marines. I was a logistics officer. Then I retired and started looking for work. You didn't connect that to sales at all, right? I spent 12 years as a Marine logistics officer where I managed complex operations under pressure, built relationships across diverse teams, and drove results in challenging environments. Those skills, stakeholder management, problem solving, accountability for results, these are exactly what's needed in enterprise IT sales. You should bridge your gap explicitly. Other fatal errors I see: arriving late. It shows poor planning and no second chances are given. Being unprepared. If you haven't done company research, you're not going to get an offer. Your phone rings during your interview. Typically, your interview is over at that point. If you lie or exaggerate, background checks will catch it, and now you can't be trusted. If you badmouth previous employers, it shows a lack of professionalism. And having no questions for an interviewer or just focusing on what the job does for you and not what you do for the job, it shows a lack of critical thinking. Your interview doesn't end when you leave. Your post-interview actions can make the difference between you getting an offer and you just blending in and being forgotten. Immediately after you leave and you're in the parking lot, spend 10 to 15 minutes writing down key points that were discussed, what topics were emphasized, names and roles, who you interviewed with. Try to spell names correctly. Any concerns that you sensed? Did they seem worried about anything? Any commitments that you made? Did you promise to send something or to follow up with something? And then your gut feeling. How did it go? Do you even want this job? And this matters now because you'll forget those details within hours, and you'll need this information for your follow-up notes. In 24 hours, send that thank you email. You need to reference something specific, actual conversation points. Keep it concise, short enough to read quickly. Reinforce your fit and connect your background to their needs. Keep it professional, proper grammar with no typos, and then have it forward-looking. Look forward to hearing about next steps. From a panel interview, remember to send those emails to each person, customized with something specific from your conversation with them. Within a week, if they said they'd get back to you and they haven't, because remember, we asked about timelines, send a follow-up email. And then always continue your job search until you have an offer in hand. After 2 weeks, if you still don't have a response, send one final check-in note and then move on professionally. Remember, sales is all about follow-up. This could be part of that test. Here's one thing I want to make sure that we understand too, is that you are building a brand and your brand should be uniform everywhere. Your resume should look like your LinkedIn profile. If you're writing cover letters, it should talk to what your resume's got. In interviews, you should be referencing things that are tied to your resume, your cover letter, and your LinkedIn profile. If you're going to networking events, you should also be talking about your value proposition, which should match the previous resumes, LinkedIn profiles, those sorts. If you have a professional email signature in your email, or if you don't, you should add a professional email signature, especially when you're responding to job leads and interviewers. It should all match what you're looking for. Because if you don't have a brand, if your LinkedIn says one thing and your resume says another, you don't have a brand, you're confused. Just know that confused hiring managers don't make offers. Let me leave you with a few final thoughts to carry into your interviews. Interviews are where you win or lose. The resume did its job and got you here. The interview will get you the offer. Preparation equals confidence. The more you prepare, the more confident you'll be. Use BMAX religiously. Practice until your answers are polished but natural. Go to veteranhiringsolutions.com/career tools tonight and start. Your background is an advantage. You bring capabilities most candidates don't have or understand. You've proven yourself in high pressure situations. You've led people through challenges. You've delivered results when lives were at stake. Be authentically yourself. Don't try to be someone you're not. Translate your true experience into language they understand, but stay authentic. Every interview makes you better. Even rejections teach you something. Each interview is practice for the next one. You've done harder things. You've served your country and your community in demanding roles. You've performed under pressure when it mattered most. An interview is not harder than what you've already done. It's just different, and different is learnable. Just know the transition is temporary. Right now, interviews and sales interviews might feel awkward. You're learning a new language, new norms, and new expectations, but that's temporary. 6 months from now, you'll walk into interviews confident and polished. You'll be coaching others on how to do this. The discomfort is part of your growth, and push through it. What I challenge you to do this week, go to veteranhiringsolutions.com/career tools. Spend 30 minutes with BMAX practicing your value proposition. Practice your top 5-star stories. Research 3 companies you're interested in. Prepare your interview outfit. Before your next interview, complete that 48-hour checklist we discussed. Do a BMAX practice session the night before. Review your research folder in the car and walk in with confidence. You have everything you need. A value proposition that shows your value, star stories that prove your competencies, an AI tool in BMAX to practice with, a research framework to prepare strategically, knowledge of what to expect in each interview type, and an understanding of what to do and what to avoid. Now go show them what you're capable of.